Hey y'all, I finally made it home, but I wanted to give you a quick example of what it looks like to be completely yielded to God's Holy Spirit. And this is just a piggyback message off of the last video that I just did. So if you haven't watched that, just go ahead and watch it. But what it looks like to be completely yielded to God's Holy Spirit and become an empty vessel for God to come in and fill you. It looks like divine acceleration. It looks like being in rooms where you're not qualified to be in, but God has placed you there, right? And once God accelerates you and once he puts you in a room where you're not technically qualified by the world standards to be there, but you're there by God's will and God's Holy Spirit, no one can move you from that role. No one can shake you from that position because you have been ordained by God. You've been anointed by God to be there. When God has an assignment on your life, when God puts you in an environment, when God puts you in certain rooms, when God puts you in certain relationships, it cannot be shaken. It cannot be moved. Once you've been qualified by world standards or put in certain positions by worldly standards, it can easily be taken from you like that. But once you become an empty vessel for God's Holy Spirit to fill you, once God says it's so, and it cannot be moved. That's what it looks like to be completely filled by God's Holy Spirit and to be used as an empty vessel. It means that it's not you that's speaking, it's God that's speaking through you. It's not you that's doing service for other people, it's God that's doing the service for you. It's not you that is moving throughout the earth, it is God that is moving throughout the earth through you. It looks like things that are happening that by world's logic should not happen, things that defy the natural laws of science, right? Things that are happening in divine timing, things that are happening in God's divine order, right? Acceleration, being in places where you're not qualified to be, right? Things happening at a rate and at a speed that logic could not explain, right? That's what it looks like to be completely yielded to God's Holy Spirit and to become an empty vessel for God to fill you. It is literally God moving through you. So opportunities that are meant for you cannot miss you when that happens. Things that are meant for you will not miss you. So that's what God is asking in this season. Go back to the last video if you haven't watched it. He's asking for his people to say, not my will, but your will be done, Lord.